Intermittent fasting, how you need to use it for fat loss, the 5 things I wish I knew. Hi, Dr. Mike Diamonds, that's me. I would have never been able to make this transformation happen, or even this without intermittent fasting. It's been the cornerstone of my transformation and many of my client transformations. With intermittent fasting, I've managed to drop over 10 inches on my belly, maintaining my chest size and decrease the size of my glutes and legs. Intermittent fasting is an effective way to burn fat, particularly if you're struggling with overeating. But many people who embark on the intermittent fasting regime tend to make a few mistakes. This video will teach you how to use intermittent fasting successfully for fat loss. But before we dive in, I know you've probably tried this before, maybe you saw some progress, or you failed using this eating protocol, and it's common. A systemic review of 40 studies found that intermittent fasting was effective for weight loss, with the typical loss of 7 to 11 pounds over 10 weeks. Before we continue, I am looking for 4 busy professionals who are performance driven, who are also motivated, who want to finally make a change into 2023. You want to finally get that weight off of your body, and you want someone who knows what they're doing and who has experience doing this. It has been my joy being able to coach clients throughout the entire 2022, seeing incredible results. This is why I've decided to focus on coaching instead of being in the hospital, and there's no one better in my opinion than me who understands the science and who has that 8 years of experience. I am going to be doing a New Year's challenge with 4 individuals. All you need to do is fill out the application form in the description, fill it to the best of your ability. You'll get a link to book a call with me personally. We'll talk about your goals, how we can make that happen in 2023, and that will also be entering you into my New Year's challenge. And that's you. Fill out the application down below and I'll be speaking to you soon. Let's continue the video. On September 27, 2022, the WHO reported more than 1 billion people worldwide are obese. 650 million adults, 340 million adolescents, and 39 million children. This number is still increasing. In the United States, 42% of adults are overweight and obese, and the number is rising dramatically. I honestly believe from the 1 billion people out there, they're searching for this information on YouTube. So for the algorithm, gently tap on the like button so I can reach the right people. Subscribe if you find the content useful and hit the notification bell. Let's kick it off. What's intermittent fasting? Intermittent fasting may sound a little scary for the first time you hear about it, but the truth is we all follow some sort of intermittent fasting. If you avoid eating after the evening meal, then you're technically fasting until you break the fast the next day with breakfast. The difference between intermittent fasting and regular life is that intermittent fasting is conscious and planned. There are different forms of fasting, but they all involve periods of high calories and periods of low or no calories. There are a lot of different types of intermittent fasting, but many of them can be quite similar. So here are 2 variations of intermittent fasting that are very different from each other. The first one is the 5-2 diet. The 5-2 diet was briefly one of the most talked about diets on the planet in 2012, and it's introduced by a lot of people in the world of intermittent fasting. The idea is to eat normally for 5 days each week, while restricting your calories to under 600 calories for 2 days each week. Some people would treat the 2 days as a true fast and avoid all calories, but most will stick with the 600 calorie limit. The 5-2 diet is popular because the rules are simple and it's a good diet to structure your workouts around. You can also be quite flexible, changing the fasting days to fit around your lifestyle. However, some people find it difficult to stick to sub 600 calories a day. Some report struggling with low energy levels and a lack of mental focus. Many people also see big drops in their NEAT levels, the number of calories burnt moving throughout the day, which can make fat loss a little harder. With that being said, I've personally never tried this myself or with anyone. I'm personally not a big fan. Number 2 is that you have the 16-8 diet. This is a very different form of intermittent fasting which you follow every day, rather than alternating days. The idea is to split your day into 2 windows. An eating window of 8 hours and a fasting window of 16 hours. The 16 hours should include time spent sleeping, and the easiest way to follow it would be to skip breakfast and have a late lunch. This form of dieting can be great if you find yourself snacking late at night or even early in the day. Having a specific rule really helps you stay more disciplined. You can also schedule your workouts and your social life around these windows, making it more flexible than the 5-2 diet in that regard. How does intermittent fasting work? While there are certainly some health benefits that are specifically tied to intermittent fasting, the true value is in the simplicity and the way that the conditions to stay disciplined. Let's say that you're following a 5-2 diet. You can eat normally 5 days per week, All you have to do is diet twice per week, right? Sure, the diet days are hard, but mentally it's easier to know that you only have to try hard for 2 days instead of 7. If you're following a 16-8 diet, then all you need to do is focus on not eating from 8 p.m. at night until midday the next day. This means you skip just one meal per day, which is breakfast, and avoid all of the snacks you may eat late at night or while you're sitting at your desk before lunch. How does fat loss work? Intermittent fasting can really help you burn fat, but how does that fat loss work? To burn body fat, you need to create a caloric deficit. This is where you burn more calories than you consume. Let's say that you consume 2,000 calories each day, but burn 2,400. Your body needs to find that extra 400 calories from somewhere. So it uses your body fat, which is basically stored energy. If you create a 400 calorie deficit every day for 100 days, you'll have had burned 40,000 calories worth of body fat. That sounds like a lot, but 1 kg of body fat contains 7,700 calories, so you'll have burned 5.7 kg of body fat in that time. There are 3 ways to create your caloric deficit. Number 1 is burn more calories via exercise. Number 2, consume fewer calories through your diet. And number 3, a combination of 1 and 2. The third option is easily the best, and it's also the healthiest. If you wanted to create a 400 calorie caloric deficit, you could burn an extra 150 calories while simultaneously lowering your caloric intake by 250 calories. Is intermittent fasting good for fat loss? Yes. Some people absolutely love the structure that intermittent fasting provides and find it easy to fit their lifestyle around. Others find it very difficult. That doesn't make intermittent fasting good or bad, but like any diet, it will suit some people better than others. If you really struggle with snacking, then intermittent fasting, particularly the 16-8 diet, might be perfect for you. If you're often overwhelmed by how complicated diets can be, then the 5-2 diet may suit you perfectly, as it's very simple and can be quite flexible. If your life has little structure, perhaps you do shift work or you have a young family, then intermittent fasting may not suit you at all. A 2015 meta-analysis by Simeon and colleague compared intermittent fasting diets to regular calorie restriction diets. The study found that the dropout rates for both diets were about the same, as was the success rates in terms of fat loss. The study concluded that intermittent fasting was a valid alternative to a traditional dieting method, but not one was better than the other. In other words, if you try intermittent fasting and find it easy to stick to, well, that's compared to traditional dieting, then it is the right diet for you. If you struggle with it, then you can switch back to traditional dieting and see similar results. Interestingly, the study also found that people on intermittent fasting diets did not tend to overeat during their eating windows, which is a common worry for people who are starting out. Of course, there will be people who do overeat, in which case intermittent fasting is not for them. 5 things that you need to know about intermittent fasting for fat loss. One thing that makes a diet more successful than others is finding ways to make it easier and more effective. In this section, we'll be taking a look at 5 things you need to know about intermittent fasting for fat loss. Number 1 is the protein intake, and that is key. A high protein diet has been repeatedly found that to be ideal for healthy fat loss, and the intermittent fasting protein becomes even more important. This is because protein synthesis is crucial for building muscle. If you're training during a fasting window, then the protein that you ate before or will eat afterwards becomes very important, as it needs to prevent muscle breakdown, where the body uses muscle tissue for energy. This is less of an issue during the 16-8 diet, but if you train during your fasting days on the 5-2 diet, make sure that you're going to be getting a lot of your calories from protein. With the way I build my clients' training and diets, I truly prioritize and optimize their protein intake. It keeps them fuller for longer, it boosts their metabolism, and finally they're able to build more muscle. The results of building muscle and losing fat is actually quite common working with me. Number 2 is portion control is more important than ever. Portion control is one of the biggest contributors to the obesity epidemic that the world is facing. The rise in the obesity levels have closely followed the rise in larger portion sizes and increased abundance of energy-dense food. In other words, supersized meals have become cheaper and it's easier to get a hold of, and this is a likely contributor to weight gain. Portion control can be an issue for people who aren't on a diet, but add fasting windows to the equation and you can see why this can be a big problem. When you're hungry, you're more likely to give yourself a larger portion of food. If you have just got off a 16-hour-long fast, then you may subconsciously try to compensate by being generous with your serving size. There are 2 ways to handle this, and you can use both if you want. Number 1 is fill your plate up with nutritionally dense, low-calorie foods such as vegetables. Number 2, Measure your carbohydrates and fats when serving your meals. Number 3 is prioritizing high fiber foods. Fiber is a very important part of nutrition, particularly when fasting. This is partly due to the fiber's many health benefits, but mostly due to the fiber being highly satiating. Satiety is a measure of how full you feel after a meal. A meal that is high in fiber will keep you feeling fuller for longer, making it easier not to eat during your fasting windows. Protein is also very satiating, so if you can choose meals that are high in fiber as well as protein, then you're really onto a winner. Number 4 is sleep is a crucial component. The relationship between sleep and appetite is well established. Studies have shown that a bad night's sleep can increase your hunger, reduce your satiety, and cause you to seek out higher calorie foods. In other words, your motivation and discipline can be compromised when you're tired. This is not specific to intermittent fasting. Any diet can be sabotaged by bad sleep, but due to the large fasting windows, bad sleep appears to be particularly affect the people doing intermittent fasting diets. If you find that sleep is coming harder than it was before you started an intermittent fasting diet, then it might be the diet itself affecting your sleep. Try changing your fasting windows or reducing your caloric intake, and your caloric deficit as being too extreme can make sleep more challenging. Number 5, schedule your workouts around your fasting periods. While it is certainly possible to exercise while fasting, it's not recommended. You will train better with some foods inside you. If you're following the 5-2 diet, then schedule your workouts for the 5 days where you eat normally. You can still exercise on the fasting days, but keep the activity low in the intensity, like walking, light workouts, ab sessions, etc. If you're following the 16-8 diet, then you don't have to be quite as careful. But even so, if you can train during your eating window or right before or after, then do as it will make more pleasant experience. I hope this video has laid out all the information necessary for you to be able to embark on your journey with intermittent fasting. Again, this isn't the end-all be-all of fat loss. Fundamentally, you need to be in a caloric deficit, and it may not be a one-size-fits-all. Another recommendation I have is that instead of doing a 5-2 or a 16-8, start light, fast for 12 hours of your day and eat in a 12-hour window period. When you feel you have that down, progress into a 14-hour fast and eat in a 10-hour window period, and then finally you can move into 16-8. Other notes I do want you to take a hold of is number 1, make sure you're prioritizing your protein intake because that's going to help you hold on to your muscle tissue. Number 2, in terms of your training performance, try and schedule your workouts around a meal so that your training is optimized. And finally, you just want to be able to apply this on a day-to-day and make sure that it fits for you and you're getting adequate amount of sleep. That being said, if you want a coach to help you with this entire process, to help you figure this out, you're a busy professional and you can't watch hundreds and hundreds of videos, I believe I am the best person to help you. Done this for 8 years. I'm a doctor. I understand the science. And I want someone who is motivated to make the transformation happen. If that's you, fill out my application in the description below and we'll jump on a call and figure this out together so you can be the best version of you in 2023. If you did enjoy the video, hit it with a gentle thumbs up. Don't smash it. Subscribe if you're new. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.